Today we're going to be changing the battery and the crystal on this Timex watch. This Timex currently takes a 2016 battery, a CR 2016. We are also going to do a cleaning on the watch as well, on the case and band. You can see the crystal's busted on the underside and chipped on the side here. It is currently stopping the watch from working. And the watch has some nicks and scuffs to it, but we're not going to resolve that today. We're just going to do a cleaning, battery, and a crystal. First thing you want to do is turn it over to the back side and locate the notch where the watch is easily opened. 11 o'clock. Actually indicates the cell here. So we're going to grab our case knife, insert this inside that little slot. Instead of pushing and forcing and trying to do that, you want to slip this under that little easy open spot. Put your thumb over it and just wiggle it back and forth. Apply a little bit more pressure until the battery just fell right out. But basically this spring here is supposed to hold the battery in place so it can make contact with that contact which connects the battery to the watch. Next, what we want to do is find the release for the stem and crown right near this gearing right here. This should press down and release the stem and crown. Press, stem and crown releases. And this should just pop out here. Came out with the movement ring. And there's our cracked part with this chunk floating around. We'll remove that in just a moment. There's that chunk. We're going to tap that out of there. There's that. That was stopping the watch. Now we're going to go remove this crystal. We're going to be using our BB crystal press to remove this crystal, to press it out. Here's our press. We have to find the correct die so that we can find a fitment, a die that'll fit on the bezel of this watch so that we are not touching the crystal. This one fits good. Now we're going to find one that presses, that fits in between the case, the lid for the crystal, and the crystal so that we can press the crystal out. It's a little small, but it will work. Install that. Now usually you can take the band off and then it's easier to press this out of the case. But today we're not going to do that. Put this die onto the bezel of the watch, hold it in place, take the press, punch that out of place. I did not think that was going to break like that. Now a good thing to do, put tape on this crystal. But you know what, we didn't. And so now we have a nice mess. It's okay. But either way, good rule of thumb, put tape on there so when you press it out it all sticks together. Okay, we were back at the bench and now this crystal had come with a plastic tension ring. Essentially, it's the gasket for the crystal. Also, it holds the crystal in place with tension rather than it being glued in. Now, you gotta be really careful with these because they break very easily and any nick on them makes it so they're unusable. But that came out easy enough. So, you want to take very good care of these because once they become deformed, you cannot use them. The crystal will not press in properly. Make sure there's no glass on it. Yeah. These Twist-O-Flex are horrible to clean. You need an ultrasonic. So So we're going to do an ultrasonic bath and then probably scrub it and do a second ultrasonic bath to get the rest. They're very dirty. Let's get that stem in here. Stem and crown. Case back. This maybe needs to be replaced. Maybe. It's looking pretty rough, but okay, nevertheless. Now the ultrasonic is heated, and so I didn't want to use either of the gaskets for cleaning because I didn't want the gaskets to heat up and warp even more than they are. So I have a cleaning gasket cleaner as well as lubricant, but I also have a lubricating one because this one's a little bit old and dirty. But this one will lubricate it very nicely. So we'll clean and then we'll rinse essentially and add lubricant. So we're going to add this in here. Go like that. Still going to come out deformed, but at least it's clean. And we will check this when the case is clean and everything. We'll check it with the pressure tester to see if this even works. But I don't think it will, so we might need to get a new one. But here's this. Now we will clean the crystal gasket as well. And now the crystal gasket doesn't require lubricant, and so this applicant doesn't really have lubricant on it. It has a tiny smidgen bit, but it's not enough to matter. So now they're both clean. And we'll lubricate this one when we install it in the watch. This watch has left quite a bit of dirt on here. So we're going to clean this up. So, we first start off with blowing. Definitely don't want to scratch this thing. Oh, that got off a little bit of the glass here. It's not cleaning up the hands. So, we're going to go with Radico as our second. This is just putty, watchmaker's putty essentially. Make sure we get all those little pieces. Don't need it stopping the watch again or scratching the dial or hands. And this stuff is great, this Radico stuff, because it's sticky enough to pick stuff up, but it is not sticky enough to pull paint off. Unless, well, I should say that I have pulled paint off of a Bulova before. The paint had been very, very old. Very old. It was a cocktail watch from the 40s. And instead of cleaning the dial, because you don't do that, I decided to use some Radico to try to lift up some of the grime. And I ended up pulling off the Bulova insignia. So, but this paint is new enough to where it does not matter. But our dial and hands are looking very nice right now. Yeah. So the dial and hands are in good reform. This movement looks okay. Doesn't look like any fingerprints. That's another thing. This thing pulls up fingerprints, which is awesome. Radico's a lifesaver for sure. Second clean here after we're done scrubbing. So this is really good for the Twistoflex bands. And I'll show you why we left the band on there. Because you can do that. You can open up the band so you can get inside of it. Because there's really no other way to do it. All right. This case back. Get that. Time for dry. This right there. Turn on dry heat. Throw the lever down. Turn on the timer. There we go. Alright, now to install this crystal so that we can get the proper size to know what crystal we need. Now these are, one side is flat, one side is concave. We want the concave side up and flat side down. It's down all the way around, good. Now we're going to take a measurement so we know what size to get the crystal. Okay, the digital caliper. Turn that on, zero it out. .11, so we'll go with 31.2. And it's a thick crystal too. Thick MG. TM glass. 31.1, 31.2. .31.2. About that size. Yeah, that'll fit. Now to clean the crystal and press it in. As you'll see, we have our crystal that's cleaned. I don't know if you can see this or not, but we want the shiny side up. And it's not shiny on the flat surface, it's shiny around the edges. This is also a bevel crystal. And this side is the shiny side. So we're going to do shiny side up. Insert that there. And one that will fit around the very edge of the crystal. We don't want to press in the middle, it'll break it. Get the remainder dust off the bottom and the top. And again, here we come with some Radical. just the most minute amount. I'll install this in the watch here. That's what that lever does. It allows it to action in and out. Okay. There's our back gasket. We'll add our lubricant. This just sits inside of a ridge, the place that snaps onto the back of the watch. There it is. Okay. We're going to install our new one, which is right here. I like to use Energizer batteries, but I specifically don't use Renata because I've noticed over the years they leak. We've installed our new battery. Now we just put the case back on and I'll meet you at the case wrench. It's installed. I'm going to check the rim to make sure everything is sat down properly and even. Okay. Turn this on. This little sensor here is rested on the crystal. Now what this does, the very first test is a vacuum test. It pulls all of the air out of the chamber and that sensor moves up and down on the crystal. And if the variation is too much, where the sensor goes up too much or down too much, but for the vacuum to be down too much, it fails. And again with the pressure, it fills the chamber with pressure. If the crystal rises up too much, it fails. Meaning there's a leak, either compression or vacuum. We passed the first test. Or passed. Pull this sensor up. Pull this out.